plenty of money in this world. There's plenty of money in this country. It's just in the wrong hands.
And I will be damned if the same politicians who refuse to act then are going to try to come back today and say we need a middle-of-the-road approach to save our lives. That is too much.
Give us some of that socialism that the oil and gas industry has had for a century.
Freedom is back in style. Welcome to the revolution.
Yeah, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song.
Sean Hannity. The new Sean Hannity Show. More behind-the-scenes information on breaking news and more bold, inspired solutions for America.
And hour two, Sean Hannity Show. Glad you're with us. 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of this extravaganza. By the way, Senator Tom Cotton is going to join us at the bottom of the hour. He says we could take Iran out in 2 shots. Like, huh? I will tell you this, though. We better change. If we're going to send brave men and women to fight wars, and we're all gung-ho when we start, and then lose 58,000 people in Vietnam, and many others injured permanently for the rest of their lives, they answer the call to serve. And then, or we're going to send them to Iraq and not send them out in up-armored Humvees and stupidly go door to door and do the work of what the Iraqis ought to be doing for themselves, only to take so much time that it gets politicized, just like Vietnam got politicized, and then we say, never mind. That's not how you fight a war. But God forbid we have to fight another war, you got to obliterate them and end it. It's the only way. If it's an evil regime, you could do war. Future wars should be fought in Tampa, Florida on computers. And that's what's going to happen because it's already happening with the drones, etc. And we just got to be ahead of everybody else. Anyway, I digress for a minute here. So we've been following all this news that I just laid out for you as it relates to the deep state. One FBI officials worried that Comey appeared to be blackmailing Trump when he was president-elect, and he went to Trump Tower and said the dossier was salacious but unverified. But yet the bulk of information on the FISA warrant he signed in October was the unverified dossier paid for by Hillary Clinton with Russian lies of all things. How Robert Mueller missed the Russia part of this, I don't know, because he had plenty of time for taxi medallions, FARA violations, tax issues, lying to Congress, time to go after a 33-year combat vet by the name of General Flynn. Had plenty of time for all this crap. Anyway, so that's only a small part of it. Now we see deleted emails between Nellie and Bruce Orr found by Judicial Watch. You have this circular firing squad that is now forming among deep state operatives. They're all turning on each other. Strzok and Page are saying, nah, go look at Loretta Lynch. She put the fix in on Hillary's investigation. And then you've got Comey battling both Rod Rosenstein. And on the one hand, then Comey versus Clapper and Brennan as it relates to the use of the dossier. And you got a former top FBI lawyer, James Baker. Well, we knew the Steele dossier wasn't literally true. Well, then why did you use it? And 95% of surveillance applications last year were approved. But McCabe said no dossier. There wouldn't have been an approval here. And then, of course, we have Gerald Nadler that wants the 5th investigation. And Congressman, the shifty Schiff, the cowardly Schiff that he wants the 7th investigation. FBI concluded. The House Intel Committee concluded. The Bipartisan Senate Committee concluded. Now the Mueller report concluded. No collusion. Nobody that cared about collusion with Trump seems to care about real evidence collusion to cause chaos and help Hillary. And Ukraine is providing us real evidence called emails. I guess they'll be deleted any moment now. Just like they don't care about obstruction, only if it's Donald Trump, not Hillary, subpoenaed emails, bleach pit. You know the routine. They didn't care there. Just like they care about Kavanaugh's high school Me Too moments of what happened and allegations from 40 years ago. I believe, but nobody believes the 2 women that accused the lieutenant governor of Virginia of violent rape and violent sexual assault. I don't hear the I believers. Anyway, Greg Jarrett is with us, Fox News legal analyst, author of the #1 bestseller, The Russian Hoax. Also, David Schoen is with us, criminal defense and civil liberties attorney. You know, you wrote me a nasty email and you said, I know more about Andrew Weissman and Jeannie Ray than anybody else, because yesterday one of the stories was that Mueller allowed his pit bull, Andrew Weissman, to pick the team of Democratic donors. I'm sorry about that. I didn't know. Mr. Schoen.
I certainly didn't intend for it to be a nasty email.
No, I'm just teasing you. This is a little bit of hyperbole there.
Yeah, no, listen, Weissman is what he is. We've discussed it many times, but, I've had cases with Weissman, Greg Andres, with Jeannie Rhee. I mean, Mueller knew what he was doing when he picked this team. This was a team of financial and other supporters of Hillary Clinton and anti-Trump. And what Mr. Nadler ought to finally accept is if that team with that agenda found no collusion, whatever collusion means, didn't find sufficient evidence for obstruction of justice, it's time to move on. Now, they put in there all their politically charged facts and all that sort of thing, and that's why this Mr. Nadler's committee wants to have this cathartic reading out loud of the report. But this has become an absurdity now. It's time to move on with policy, and it's time, I suppose, for this investigation to get fully underway by Mr.
Well,
President.
I think it has, and I'm getting some rumblings. I can't confirm it, that it looks like Horowitz may be done, that it's going to be devastating. Obviously, he's had to brief the Attorney General. The Attorney General was very clear the Mueller issue's dead, but Hillary's investigation, how it was handled, the dossier, the FISA warrants, the abuse of power by high-ranking officials is real. That game is on, and we see it with Mr. Durham.
Yeah, John Durham is the U.S. Attorney in Connecticut, specially appointed by the Attorney General to investigate this, has the power and the skills to get to the bottom of all of the corrupt acts at the FBI and the Department of Justice. Now, the Inspector General has been doing a lot of the legwork over the course of the last year and a half, coming up with some of the evidence, but you need, Sean, a U.S. attorney to force people who are no longer employed by the government to talk. And, Durham has the authority to present incriminating evidence to grand jury to force people to testify for potential indictments. So you're talking about people who have left the FBI like Comey and McCabe and Strzok and Lisa Page. But I think he's also zeroing in on people like Bruce Orr, James Baker, and of course Christopher Steele, who composed the phony dossier that was all nothing but, 17 memos of lies. And Glenn Simpson, who has taken the fifth. The founder of Fusion GPS, who was funding the whole thing and egging Steele on and leaking it to the media. And then, of course, you've got Brennan and Clapper. These guys are all now turning on each other. There was a scheme afoot. Comey and Brennan and Clapper, they were going to use this phony dossier, slip it in to the intelligence community assessment, and then use that as an excuse for Comey to go to Trump and debrief him about the dossier, which was all a pretext for then leaking it by Clapper to the media to damage the president. And all three of these guys, Comey, Brennan, Clapper, they were all eager participants. This was their scheme. It was corrupt, and now they're getting caught because it's all unraveling.
I think it's all going in the same way, but we're going to get the 5 buckets that we always talk about. We're going to get the FISA applications. We're going to get the 302s. We're going to get the Gang of 8. We're going to get the exculpatory information apparently that was withheld. And we're going to get apparently the email connection with the FBI admitting a lot of wrongdoing. What else are we going to get? I'll ask you first, Greg, then I'll ask David.
Well, I think among those documents, you will see that the FBI and the DOJ knew that this was an unverified, phony document written by a guy who lied, who was virulently biased, and it was paid for by the Clinton campaign and the Democrats. They knew all of this. They knew that Carter Page was not a spy, even though they told the FISA court, literally, this is a Russian agent. Those are their words in the FISA application, and they knew that was a lie. They didn't care. They were going to bring down Trump. They were going to spy and surveil. And God bless the Attorney General, who likes to use plain language that all Americans can understand. You can listen all you want to the excuses being offered by people like Christopher Wray and James Comey and so forth. That was spying. And, whether it's done with a legal predicate or not, the Attorney General will get to the bottom of it.
What is your take on that part of it? And do you see the indictments that we think are warranted here, David Schoen? David, where'd you go? I guess we lost David. Well, the thing that I know everybody wants more than anything is they want to know when we get the smoking guns that blow them out of the water. Like James Comey's an interesting guy. He never shuts up, which I think is just legally it's dumb.
Yeah, stupid.
And he's contradicted himself. But even on the Warren issue, if the bulk of information, as the Nunes-Grassley-Graham memo say, is the dirty Russian dossier paid for by Hillary, and he signs that it's verified in the warrant October 2016, tells Trump it's not verified but salacious in 2017, and now all the FBI guys are saying, holy crap, is he going J. Edgar Hoover on us? And is he blackmailing the president?
I'll tell you what Comey's going to do. When he's up against the wall and the evidence is incriminating against him, he does one or two things. He either claims he can't remember anything except his name and date of birth, because that's what he did in the private sessions under testimony with Congress. Or he'll just make stuff up. He will lie, and you'll find that in the Inspector General's report when his excuse for not indicting Hillary Clinton was, well, the congressional intent of that statute required intent. And, of course, I went down to Washington, D.C. and pulled the congressional recordings. And it was just the opposite. They specifically wrote a new provision eliminating intent. So Comey was just lying and making it up. So he'll either lie or suddenly he will have amnesia and can't remember everything or anything. And he'll say, oh, I may have affixed my signature to that, but I was relying on other people.
What is your take on that part, David?
Well, I think he's 100% right. I mean, Comey has shown himself to believe that he's above the law. What I want to see happen here is, through Mr. Durham, a witness, a live witness come forward, whether motivated by fear of prosecution or conscience. Whatever it is, I want that witness to tell the truth, because I hate to be a Johnny One Note, I don't think you've even scratched the surface on what people like Andrew Weissman did that was wrong. This is dangerous. Remember, you had an attempted coup at the Justice Department. You have a cadre of people who felt they were above the law, doing God's work in getting Donald Trump out of office. That's a very, very constitutionally dangerous situation. We need witnesses here on top of the documents.
I got to take a quick break. We'll come back more with David Schoen and Greg Jarrett on the other side. At the bottom of the hour, Senator Tom Cotton stops by on Sean Hannity Show, 800-941-SEAN. Greg Jarrett with us, as well as David Schoen. So we're going to now, is there a possibility that the Inspector General report becomes the straw that breaks the camel's back? David?
Yeah, there's a chance of that. Listen, Michael Horowitz is an honest guy, if nothing else. I've had him as a special prosecutor in a corruption case in the Southern District of New York. He was hard-hitting. He slammed the agents when they were crooked. I think he's, been held back a little bit in the report that he issued earlier now. And he certainly has long-standing relationships with some of these people. But, yes, there's a possibility that he could really finally pull the curtain back on the misconduct here.
Unbelievable. Right.
I think there have been several key individuals who have come to Michael Horowitz and spilled the beans. And I'm hearing the same thing, Sean, that you're hearing, that this report by Horowitz will be devastating, and I think it will lead to legal action by the Department of Justice against people.
But how could it not? Now, let's just think about this for a minute. If they used a dirty political dossier that was unverified as the means of spying on an opposition party candidate in an election year,
right?
and they were warned multiple times by multiple people that she paid for it. Steele hated Trump. It's not verified, but did it anyway. Isn't that premeditated
Totally.
fraud on a court?
Oh, it is. And as I identify in my book, The Russia Hoax, it's 6 different felonies, 6 of them. But, here's what their excuse is going to be. All the people who signed off on it, from, Sally Yates to James Comey, who signed 3 of them, Rod Rosenstein, they're going to say, well, we relied on the work that was done putting the FISA application together. We relied on all these other people, and they didn't properly communicate all of this stuff that we should have told the court. So they're going to blame others.
But Rod Rosenstein said, you're a career law enforcement official.
Yeah, but he's also made some other comments suggesting that he didn't actually read the document. He didn't dig into the research.
Is that going to work, that they relied on other people's accounts of the dossier?
Well, it shouldn't work, but in the end, that's their only mea culpa.
Do we go back to Hillary? Does she get in trouble?
For paying a foreign national for information is a violation of the Federal Campaign Election Act.
What is the penalty? Is that a felony?
It's the $168,000 she paid for that dossier makes it a thing of value. And in egregious cases, it can be a crime because it was willful.
She gets away with the emails. She gets away with the obstruction.
But she might not get away with the dossier.
What about the Uranium One deal?
Hard to know.
All right, thank you both. When we come back, Senator Cotton of Arkansas, much more. News Roundup, information overload. Your calls also coming up, 800-941-SEAN. Straight ahead.
Continuing the mission of saving America as we return to the Sean Hannity Show.
Could we win a war with Iran?
Yes.
That didn't take you a second.
2 strikes, the first strike and the last strike.
What are the conditions or the circumstances that would justify going to war with Iran?
Well, if Iran struck out militarily against the United States or against our allies in the region, then I would certainly expect a devastating response against Iran.
As somebody who fought in 2 fronts in the Middle East, both in Iraq and in Afghanistan, do you think it would be a good idea to go to war with Iran?
No, I don't advocate military action against Iran. I'm simply delivering the message that if Iran were to attack the United States, it would be a grave miscalculation on their part, and there would be a furious response. Now, we don't want to govern Iran. We don't want to rule 80 million Iranians. We want 80 million Iranians to be able to govern themselves.
Where are you on regime change?
What I want is to have an outlaw regime change its behavior, to rejoin the civilized world and stop supporting terrorism and trying to overthrow the governments of so many of its neighbors. Ultimately, it's up to the Iranian people and their leaders to decide how they're going to govern their country. But with men like those in charge of Iran, I think we're going to see what we've seen for the last 40 years, which is a revolutionary theological movement that's hijacked the powers of a nation state.
I wonder if that means on any level to you that war is inevitable.
War is never inevitable. War is always the product of human choices.
All right, that was Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas. And in an interview, it took me by surprise. I'm going to get into this issue of the U.S. winning a war against Iran in 2 strikes. For those of you that don't know, Senator Cotton is a combat tour vet and served as a platoon leader for the Army's 3rd Infantry Regiment at Arlington. He actually has a new book out that pays homage to these soldiers who have gone before all of us and did what they did and served their country. Many of them losing their lives in the course of that duty and honor, in service for other people. And, anyway, it's called a Soldier's Tour at Arlington National Cemetery. Pretty inspiring portrait of Arlington. If you haven't been there, you need to go. And Arlington Cemetery's old guard, but also chronicling his personal journey and time as a platoon leader in the unit. Senator, how are you? Welcome to the program.
Hey, Sean, it's great to be on the program, and thank you very much for your interest in sacred duty. You know, it's a great honor to be able to serve at the Old Guard in 2007 and 2008 between my overseas tours, and it was a great honor to spend the last year back at the cemetery with the soldiers of the Old Guard and to tell their story in sacred duty.
Well, this is important. An important part of your history is that for over 16 months in 07 and 08, you know, between combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, you served as the platoon leader of this old guard, the Army's 3rd Infantry Regiment at Arlington. These soldiers have been embodied, they embody the ideals of honor and sacrifice. So between that time, what did you actually do there?
Sean, I was a platoon leader with the Old Guard, whose primary mission is military honor funerals in Arlington National Cemetery. We perform 20 to 30 funerals a day for veterans of World War II and Korea and Vietnam, and unfortunately active duty burials for those who had just been killed a few days earlier in Iraq and Afghanistan. We can do up to 100 funerals in a week. I probably did 400 to 500 funerals in my time at Arlington. But the distinguishing hallmark of the Old Guard is their pursuit of perfection in everything they do, their ethos of excellence. Because even though we might have performed 20 to 30 funerals a day, we knew for that fallen hero and for that family at the gravesite, that was the only funeral they were ever going to see. That was a once-in-a-lifetime moment, and it was a lifetime in the making. And we owed it to our comrades in arms to pay tribute to them. We also knew that it helped create the next generation of guardians for this nation. Whenever young men and women see the way our nation honors our war fallen, know that they will be treated in the exact same way if, heaven forbid, they join the military when they grow up and they have to go down range to fight and they lose their lives. I think it's a really important message that we send to the next generation of American that we started at the very beginning of this country back in the Revolutionary War, and we carry forward to today, that there's no one we honor more than our warriors, and especially those who have laid down their life in defense of our nation.
What is the reaction? Is it every time the same when taps are played or 21 gun salute? I don't know if that's included in every funeral, but I know my father's buried in a military gravesite as well. He fought in World War II.
Taps is played at every military honor funerals. The big guns are fired at certain funerals for senior officers or for senior civilians inside the Department of Defense. It's a mournful tune, and many families lose their composure. Obviously, the rawer and newer that the death was, the harder it is on the family. But of course, that kind of thing sticks with you. It stays on your mind after the funeral. If you've seen a young widow receive the flag from you, sobbing at the loss of her husband and what it means to raise the 2 small children next to her without their dad for the rest of their lives.
Did you speak those words on behalf of a grateful nation? Did you do that?
We did. It's called condolences, Sean, and it's part of the test that all officers and NCOs have to undergo before they can be certified to perform a funeral in the cemetery. It's something that you don't forget when you bend down on a knee and you take that flag and you put it in.
Tell us the whole tell everybody the whole process, if you don't mind, walking through, because this is after they fold the flag that was draped over the casket, and it's folded with the honor that it deserves, and then take it from there.
Yeah. So once the family is next to the graveside, once everything is in position, I, as the officer in charge at the head of the grave, would step away. The chaplain would step in. The chaplain was the main link to the family. The chaplain would know about the soldier whom we were honoring, whether he had just passed away in Iraq and the conditions of his death downrange, or if he was a World War II veteran. The chaplain would perform a short service and then step out, at which point I would step back into the head of the casket. That was the cue for the casket team, which had been holding the flag taut, to begin to fold the flag. That is a precise maneuver. They have exactly 1 minute, 55 seconds to fold it into a crisp triangle and present it to me, while the U.S. Army band plays usually either America the Beautiful or Army Blue. And then once it's presented to me, the casket team marches off, and I turn and walk to the next of kin. I take a knee and I present the flag to the next of kin, and then I recite the condolences on behalf of the President and the Army and a grateful nation. And then I stand and I salute. And then I return to the head of the casket while the funeral concludes.
Say the whole thing that you say to the family. So you take a knee, you present the flag, you have white gloves on. Yeah. I remember that part. And what are the exact words you say?
Yeah, so you go over, you do have your dress uniform on and the white gloves on. You take that knee and you present the flag, and then you recite the condolences. Now, the condolences have changed just a little bit since the time I was there. and that was done to harmonize them across all 4 services. And today, the condolences are on behalf of the President of the United States Army, and a grateful nation. Please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved one's honorable and faithful service. And when the next of kin takes the flag, you stand and you salute. One final salute to the flag that had adorned their loved one's remains.
Unbelievable. You know, we don't honor those brave men. We don't think, we don't wake up every morning and say, I'm so free, and we take it for granted. Like a lot of blessings in life. And then you think of all the people that have died in all the wars this country has had to endure. And America, as I often say, is the country, there's never been a country that has accumulated more power, abused it less, and we're not a perfect country, but also used it to advance the human condition more than the United States of America. It's just a fact. But let me ask you this question. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's an absolute fact, Sean, and it's those young men and women, whether they're at Arlington National Cemetery or with famed divisions like the 101st Airborne Division where I serve, that have done that good on behalf of our nation. And as you say, probably most of us in civilian life probably don't think enough each day about those Americans who laid down their life and the sacrifices their family made. But as I write in Sacred Duty, that's part of the reason why we have a unit like the Old Guard of Arlington to every single day in the cemetery, whether it's at a military honor funeral or guarding the tomb of the unknown soldier for the 82nd consecutive year, to express our gratitude, our reverence, and even our love as a nation for those fallen heroes and their families.
We don't have the freedoms without these guys. We don't have this country without them. And again, you don't wake up every morning when you think of how profound it is. No greater love have man for another than to lay down their life. And all these people have. It strikes you and you realize that the lives we enjoy are because of so many sacrificing. But let me ask you, I have you on the phone. And by the way, it's a great book. It's coming out May 14th, Sacred Duty, a soldier's tour at Arlington National Cemetery. I have studied this Iranian situation a lot over the years. I can remember when the Shah was removed and out of France comes the Ayatollah and the theocracy emerges. And I was very angry when Obama dropped $150 billion in cash and other currency on the tarmac in Iran for the mullahs that chant death to America and death to Israel, etc. They've been saber rattling the last week or so. You, in an interview, I believe it was on PBS, said that you believe the U.S. could win the war against Iran in 2 strikes. And I wanted to ask you about it because I think we're all pretty confident that they, as evil as they are, they have intelligently moved a lot of their nuclear sites all around the country, deeply embedded into the ground, and which would make taking those sites out alone a monumental military task.
Well, Sean, to be exact, what I said on PBS is that we would resolve the dispute in 1 strike, because I said that if there were a military conflict with Iran, there would only be 2 strikes, the first strike and the last strike. What I mean by that is that we don't seek war with Iran. We're not taking military action just for the hell of it. But if Iran were to attack us, attack one of our ships in the Persian Gulf, attack our troops in Iraq, or attack the personnel, the thousands and thousands of citizens, in addition to diplomats and soldiers that we have living in the region, by taking the first strike against us, they would be guaranteeing that we take the last strike against them. They might start a battle. We would be the ones ending the battle, and we would end it in a time and a manner of our choosing.
All right, quick break. We'll come back more with Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas on the other side. And then, of course, we have our news roundup, information overload. Jonathan, Danielle, and your calls straight ahead.
He's always been a street fighter who takes on the system. And Hannity is doing it today, fighting left-wing powers who want to stamp out conservative voices. Fighting fire with fire. That's Sean Hannity.
As we continue, Senator Tom Cotton is with us. Sacred Duty, a soldier's tour at Arlington National Cemetery. It's on sale, Amazon.com. It's a great book. I think you'll be interested in it. We lost 58,000 troops in Vietnam. I think grand total, Iraq and Afghanistan, somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000, and so many more permanently injured, losing limbs, etc. And I've met many of the families, Gold Star families that have, injuries that are forever life-changing. I don't like how we politicize war anymore. I don't like the idea that we don't fight them to win them. It seems we're all gung-ho when we start, then it gets seen through the prism of politics, and we're not winning it. Then it raises a question. When Harry Truman hit Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it was over. Did innocent people die? Yeah. We did not start that war either. My father served 4 years in the Pacific. Do we have to reconsider how war is fought and only get engaged? We can't have guys in Iraq going door to door anymore, and they don't even have up-armored Humvees, for crying out loud.
No. Yeah, so, Sean, it's not in our interest, nor should we desire to try to govern 80 million Iranians. I would much rather 80 million Iranians be able to govern themselves in basic stability and peace and not be a threat to the United States and a threat to the security of a vital region as well. That's why when I say that there would be two strikes, the first strike and the last strike, we would not precipitate, and we have not taken any actions to precipitate the increased tensions you see in the Persian Gulf region right now. The administration is responding prudently to very serious and credible threats against the United States, our personnel, and our interests in the region. I hope by virtue of the actions we've taken, deploying an additional carrier strike group and more bombers and Patriot missile systems, that we have sent the signal to Iran that they need to stand down from some of the threatening actions they're taking. They should make no
mistake. I just want the next generation of weaponry to be. I want our wars to be fought in Tampa. That's it. In other words, seriously, I want the next generation of weapons. We can't go to door anymore. We can't do it. There's too many kids sacrificing. Then it gets politicized. Then you have to ask, well, why did we even begin it? And that infuriates me because it shows a lack of respect for what we're asking these kids to do. If you're going to fight a war, you better fight and you better win it, and you better win it fast. That's how we have to fight it.
I think what the Department of Defense is trying to do, what Chairman Joe Dunford is trying to do, is provide the options to the president should Iran strike the United States and our personnel and our interests.
I got to run those, Senator. I'm not trying to cut you off here, but we're just up on the clock. Listen, we really appreciate your time.
I got it.
And thanks for all you do. And the book is out May 14th. Sacred Duty, a soldier's tour at Arlington National Cemetery.
American way. Of course, the next best thing to a seat in the stands is a seat in front of a 19-inch RCA Victor television.
One more day to Labor Day weekend, the traditional occasion for tasty outdoor barbecues or picnics.
with all the obstacles and with all the enemies who are between me and...